Hello and welcome back to the Editorial, the podcast where we apologise for every mistake we've made. I'm joined this week, as always, by Zach Michaelis, our Editor-in-Chief.
Hello, there's quite a lot of space. Is that deliberate on the camera?
Yeah,
Who cares? It's the Editorial.
Scarlett can zoom in. But you're right, there is quite a lot of space.
I thought it was sort of thing.
We're quite zoomed out.
It would annoy you normally. It doesn't annoy me.
I did touch it, but Scarlett will zoom in.
Okay, cool.
As we were. How are you?
Very good, actually.
Good. How's the channels been? How have we done? Any big mistakes since we last spoke?
No, I don't think so. We've got surprisingly little to talk about. I'm going to dive straight in, if you don't mind. So
Absolutely.
I can start with EU. We have one video on EU with a like-dislike ratio that's lower than the requisite 96.5. And that is the one about the EU's migration policy working surprisingly well.
Yes.
And I don't want to spend too long on this because it's something we actually talked about in a previous editorial. I think we might have devoted quite a lot of one editorial to it.
We're sick of telling you this.
We're sick of telling you this.
Stop.
You're wrong. Buy our stuff. You're wrong.
That is the tone it slowly devolved into.
But it's about the use of the term illegal versus irregular migration, right? And we say irregular migration. That just is because, and this, look, normally I'm very sensitive to these sort of like linguistic arguments between the left and the right, but in this case, it just is the correct term. It really is, because under international law and thus under actually most domestic legal systems, especially in Europe, I think basically every single one, if someone who has a genuine claim to, like a genuine well-founded asylum claim and is thus actually going to be a legitimate refugee in the future, arrives, at some sort of European coast or border irregularly, they are an irregular migrant, but they are not an illegal migrant. And all the statistics we're talking about there refer to irregular migrants. You might plausibly describe basically people who have their asylum claims denied. Those people very plausibly illegal migrants. But there's sort of two categories within irregular migration, right? Which is basically asylum seekers who have their claims denied, you might probably describe as illegal migrants, and then those who have their claims accepted. You might think that we need to, stricture up our asylum laws and all that sort of shenanigans, but under current law, those people are legal immigrants, right? And so that's why we use the term irregular as opposed to illegal. They do mean different things. So nothing to apologize for there, but that's just a thing that people get frustrated about.
I think it's interesting that, like, as you say, we ordinarily are very cautious around, like, if there is kind of like language that's coded one direction or the other, that we don't use it. But yeah, this is one that has kind of become a controversial term because of how the left and right have used the words, but like, it's not a controversy. It's a technical term. It's a legal term. And
I think the left has played its part. I mean, I think a lot of this discourse, by the way, is annoyingly sort of transplanted from America, right? Where they have the same argument, but the word is undocumented versus illegal, right? And the left played its part in sort of polarizing that debate over in America, right? Because they said anyone who's used the word illegal as opposed to undocumented was racist or whatever it was. But leaving aside like those sort of the accusations and the ways that both sides sort of polarize that debate, if you just look at what the words actually mean, in this case, irregular is the right word because illegal is too narrow. Irregular covers basically all forms of asylum claimants, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, nice. So, yeah, that
Don't make us tell you that again, okay?
Watch yourself.
Sick of it.
Watch yourself. I'll come over there.
Buy a dictionary. Yeah. We should sell a dictionary.
We should sell a dictionary, actually.
Just a regular dictionary, but with TLDR colours.
Let's do global next. I don't know, actually, if we have... There might have been the occasional error here and there. I don't think there was. There was America headed for civil war, which got 95.7. That's actually pretty high for that topic, I think. And actually, the content of the video was more about the politicization of the military. And we do make the point, and I think, again, this is legitimate, that actually, while Trump is accelerating that trend and probably supercharging it in some sense, it actually is a both sides issue, right? That like both Republicans and Democrats, I think they didn't really haven't really realized what they're doing, but they have, over successive elections, proved more and more willing to basically politicize the military and basically essentially try and tell the electorate, no, we're more popular with the military than they are, right? The other video on global that had a slightly lower like-dislike ratio was what the Mexican left, or what Mexico can teach global
just under
leftists. Yeah, 95%. I I think there were sort of like two categories of complaints. One was that, well, first, basically, people either said no, Morena, which is the Mexican left-wing party, isn't actually left-wing. And then the other people were saying, no, Starmer isn't actually left-wing, right? Or like the Democrats aren't actually left-wing. That's their problem, is not that they're doing leftism the wrong way. They're just not actually left-wing. I guess I don't want to spend too much time on the second category of complaint, because I think that's just a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. Like, is Starmer left-wing? Are the Democrats left-wing? But I think it's sort of beside the point. I think you can, even if you push back against individual cases, I think it is generally pretty clearly true that in most developed countries, left-wing parties, left-wing politics is having a tough time at the moment, while generally it feels like most of the countries are moving to the right. On the first category of complaint about Morena not really being left-wing, I think about this quite a lot, because I don't know, I liked writing that video, and I always think it's interesting, you know, basically parties with politics that usually don't do well doing well. And I think there are certain aspects obviously in which Morena is not obviously left-wing, right? And I think one of the, at least they feel incongruous with Western leftism in a couple of places. I mean, most obviously social policy, right? They are quite conservative on social issues. And then also, I guess, in sort of like their respect for institutions, I think these days we associate centre-left parties in the West as being sort of like pro-institution, right? Democrats in America are probably the best example of that at the moment. Whereas Morena are quite actively, they're very critical of existing institutions. Most obviously, they've pushed through a whole of constitutional reforms that give them more control of the judiciary. And I think that also more pragmatic on institutional questions than are Western leftists. So I think Western leftists tend to be more ideologically committed to certain institutional frameworks. So a good example of this, right, is that Morena's sort of very, it's weird, it's hard to place it, the alliance with the military they have, basically, right? Where like the military are one of the very few parts of government that have seen more money in the Morena years. And that's in part because like Morena know it's a good tactical move to keep the military on side. Also because they can sort of like co-opt them into infrastructure products and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
And like you can see that like that doesn't feel very left wing to us.
I can see that.
But I do still think quite fundamentally that a party that the economic program is centered around, it's very, very pro-worker. It's centered around unionization. It's centered around massively raising the minimum wage, right? It's centered around a very sort of explicit rhetorical opposition to quote-unquote neoliberalism, which he loves, AMLO and now Scheinbaum love talking about, which is committed to climate politics. You know, I just do think that is fundamentally left-wing, right? Like, so on both of those points, I see where people are coming from, but I sort of stand by the broad points. I think it is true Morena is broadly left-wing, and it is also true that, broadly speaking, in Western countries especially, left-wing politics has struggled recently. The last thing I'll say is that I think this in some part is a consequence of the fact that we were trying to cram a lot of stuff into quite a short video, right? Like what the Western left can learn from Morena, that could be a book very easily, and we were doing it in 1,200 words. And so I appreciate that might mean skimming over certain things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That is everything on global. That leaves
any videos
us
on UK?
I don't actually think there were any videos on UK. I can double check, but I think since we last did it, no.
Good work, UK.
Maybe digital ID, but I think we talked about that last time, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
People
didn't like your response to it either, so let's not.
Did they not? No. I wasn't being like critical enough of digital ID.
Yeah, exactly.
But that brings us on the one other thing that did have a low like-dislike ratio.
Was the worldly leaderboard.
I don't know if, are we doing that? Are we doing editorial?
I think we can do a podcast editorial if it's notable. Yeah, the episode from the 2nd of October got 93.6, which is actually
that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Because we put Starmer up. And on the thumbnail too.
Yeah.
You put Starmer up, so why do you think it was contentious, and do you stand by it?
I do stand by it. I think some of it's just that, and this is because we don't stick the format too rigidly ourselves, but like it's a consequence of the format. I think by Starmer's standards, he had a good week.
Sure.
You know, like I think the week before that, Burnham was sort of coming out of the woods. It looked like he might be in trouble. People were saying conference was going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
And I think that week he had a better than expected conference. It's true to say. And Burnham did run away. And then I think that thing about reform, I do still stand by that. People didn't really buy my argument. I don't think I articulated myself very well. My basic point was just that if Starmer can go into the next election saying, vote for me, otherwise you'll get reform.
Yeah.
That is a stronger pitch than vote for me, otherwise you get the Tories.
That is true.
I think reform, it's just by virtue of how polarizing reform are, right? If reform might be polling on 30%, but it's sort of like, you know, you dig into that polling, 30% people quite like reform, but about 60, 70% people would never vote for reform, would definitely not want Nigel Farage as Prime Minister. I sort of stand by that. I did like the suggestion. I like the suggestion generally that we're like Starmer shills, you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't match up to like all of the content. I mean, the amount of times we put Starmer in a sort of thumbnail bin or whatever it is.
And the amount of sad photos of Starmer we've downloaded from Getty Images. That man never smiles in our thumbnails, and if we do, it's because we're implying he's done something bad.
But I do like the implication that like, some people suggesting that we've done one interview with him and now look at us.
That is suspicious.
And I just think from Starmer's perspective,
timing.
What a terrible deal, right? He gets like a few thousand views on a short.
What's he giving us, do you think?
Yeah, and then whatever he's giving us, he's not getting much out of it. Is what I'm getting out of.
Yeah, true.
The world lead leaderboard. He gets moved up on the world lead leaderboard.
You don't understand. They go to these like kind of NATO G20 kind of things, and they're like,
"Where are you?
You're not allowed on our table because you moved down last week. You're in the bottom half of the board. You got to eat outside." He just wanted to get rid of that -4 or whatever. Like it was rough.
Yeah, it was rough, to be fair.
And now he's just lightly. No, he's just regular negative.
That is like the loneliest table at the Munich Security Conference.
The negative.
-4 is just him.
Yeah.
BB's just next door, being like,
doing quite well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is all for all of the channels. The only other one, another kind of podcast editorial, is apparently we made a mistake in last week's editorial where we said that Carney's Liberals had a majority, but they only have a minority government.
I'm very liable to podcast mistakes because
You're just talking.
I'm just talking. I'm making things up. You probably shouldn't listen.
Yeah,
so,
true.
Yeah.
Does that undermine your last point about World Leaderboard?
No, I still stand by the arguments made in World Leaderboard.
You write down stuff in advance.
I did in my little...
It's less yapping.
I also made a mistake on one of the other editorials about marijuana legalization. I got confused with, I think it was Oregon that rolled back its like wider drug liberalization rules.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it was just marijuana, but it was
everything.
All the drugs.
Got it. Okay, we have 6 minutes left on this episode, so we got time for some Q&A. Every week, presuming we don't make enough mistakes to fill the full 20 minutes, we end the episodes with Q&A, which are pulled from previous episodes' comments. We are beginning to run a little low. We still have 28 in here, but at one point we had loads. So if you have any questions about TLDR, about the business, about policy, about whatever you want, chuck them in the comments of this video and I will add them to the list and we'll maybe randomly select them in the future. That being said, there are still some that have been in there since the very beginning because that's how random numbers work. So stay patient. Your question may eventually come up.
Really fascinating outro about which soup we like or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, people love it. Question number 13. How much do we need to increase the Patreon for Zach to get carte blanche on his niche economic videos?
Well, you probably know the maths more than I do.
I mean, Patreon's not the way to do it. Patreon's not really a thing we do anymore. But there is an amount of money, probably. Would you want to? What weird niche economic videos would you do were people to, say, purchase a copy of Too Long?
That's a good question. I probably wouldn't do, like... I think in my mind, if I was going to do it, maybe tell me if there's any appetite for this, but I think it would be more like a little chit chat with someone as opposed to a whole video. Do you know what I mean? Like me and you would sit down and I'd try and explain to you and you can ask me questions when it gets... It's not a bad format, I don't think.
Like some economics podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Like quick ones, but it'd be like the end of a day, right? Where we'd be like, oh, something's happened. And I think, oh, it's interesting, but it's not enough for a video.
Sure.
Often the economic things are interesting, but not enough for a video, right?
Sure.
So like, I don't know.
There's just some new data or whatever.
Yeah, gold price has gone up or whatever.
Yeah.
And you go, let's talk about that very quickly. You know, that's low production cost, might do okay. It'd be hard to like put it on the podcast channel because it's podcast channel is full of like worldly leaderboard editorial. It'd be a bit weird to do like why are cocoa prices going down or whatever it was. But I think I like that as a format. Yeah, I sometimes think about because on the podcast Worldly Leaderboard that came out today. You know, there's a bit where I quote Safi and she's talking to me about Macron. I didn't watch it, but she said he's really handsome, and I said I agree basically.
And you're gonna do a podcast about that?
Well, I just thought that like there's quite a fun. I mean, I thought it'd be quite. I sometimes have to very occasionally have to take interest in politics, and I quite like the dynamic we have where she knows nothing about it, and I have to try and like explain it from like the ground up. You know what I mean? Because then she was like, so why doesn't anyone like Macron? And I was like, well, I don't really know how to answer that question. That's like 8 years in one go. Yeah. And yeah, so like, I don't know. I feel like that's not a bad format. There were sometimes videos where I think the issue with the economics things that I don't cover on the main channels, they're either too long or too short, right? So like I had a too long one about like, what's his name? Besant gave a speech about how to fix the IMF at the IMF like 4 months ago. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And like you could do like a mega 25-minute, 30-minute documentary on like how to fix the IMF. But it's too long. You couldn't do it in 1,200 words, or they're too short. Yeah. So, you know, like gold prices go up. I mean, you could do a whole video on gold, and we have done it before, but like it's not.
Has to be specifically the right gold.
And also, it's easier to just do like 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, let us know. Firstly, buy a copy of Too Long if you want to encourage us to do weird stuff. There's actually some announcements coming around that soon. And secondly, if that specifically is of interest to you, let us know in the comments. Next question is question number 21, which is, will you guys be doing any specific science coverage of any of the new nuclear plants coming to the US or Europe? There's some pretty advanced nuclear facilities that are being built right now.
No.
Okay. Eddie?
We don't really do the sciencey stuff. I mean, like we do some nuclear stuff, but more in the context of like national energy policy, don't we?
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
We don't really do the sciencey stuff. I mean,
it'd be interesting too.
Yeah, but we're not good at it.
No, someone else should.
We're not, someone else should, exactly.
Let us know who's going to do it.
Yeah.
One of you?
Possible.
Okay, next question. Question number 16. Will there be a race to deliver a Too Long magazine across Europe as a special? I heard a laugh from downstairs. Maybe.
No. This is we're going to get into an office argument about this. I hate the races. Jack generally likes the races a bit more.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, definitely not.
Question number 8. What's changed in terms of verification since you started TLDR years ago?
No idea what that means.
I don't know what that question means.
Let's move on. It's good.
I don't know why I put that one in there. I was just confused by it. Question number 20. Oh, if that person knows what they mean, you can articulate it better in the comments and we might answer it. Do you plan on revisiting past stories that have dropped out of the mainstream media? Maybe looking back at your back catalogue for stories that are 5 years old and doing a review to see whether there's any progress or changes?
Probably. I mean, I don't want to be too dismissive, but probably not.
Okay.
Most of the time, I don't think that people watch it, and I think most of the time they're not that interesting. It's like some big ones. Maybe we do like a Brexit recap. You've wanted to do that for a while, haven't you?
We have, yeah.
Or like I was reading today we did a video a couple of years ago about water-related tensions around Afghanistan.
That is the kind of one that would work.
Yeah. So I think I am going to do a recap on that, but only because it's become an issue again, right? Because there's a water crisis in Iran and another one in Afghanistan at the moment.
I think for like the core audience, the idea of like the thumbnail being, I mean, maybe it's more of a podcast thing where you discuss it and it's like an editorial style thing and the old thumbnail is in there and it's like, what's happened since? But otherwise, if you're not doing that kind of thing, if it just is like a fresh looking video,
it just ends up becoming a normal video.
Then why wouldn't you just do it when it's news?
Exactly, that's what I think. And I think we actually do end up doing quite a lot of recapping. Like today with the Saudi Arabia video, and actually quite a lot of that was recapping.
Most of it's history anyway. And it's like the history will still be history in the future. Final question number 28. How many copies of Too Long did you sell to Lithuania? Do you want to have a guess?
Did you know? You know the answer?
Yeah.
How many did we sell overall?
Ever. I think this is ever how many we sold to Lithuania.
Including like...
So, this is since Too Long 2, and I reckon we sold, 20-ish thousand copies since then?
Not many. Wow. 42.
Oh my word, 47. Pretty good guess.
Wow.
Pretty good guess. If you have any other questions like that you'd like to see us answer next time, then let us know in the comments and we will add them to the pool of questions. Regardless, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time to discuss more things we got wrong, because we will definitely get more things wrong. We'll see you then.